it would be really interesting, I think, if there was a piece of functionality which was like,
take my scrappy notes and make it beautiful.
Yeah, well, absolutely that. Like 100% that. All right, we're rolling, and today we have Emile from Caido with us. Welcome, dude.
Hello, hello.
And we've also got the Grinch, apparently. Joel, show the people your voice right now, man.
Okay, so a child coughed on me on an airplane, and it was funny because in the group chat, like I was like witnessed it happen. Like I was like sitting there, this child just like open mouth coughed like right next to me, and I was like in the group chat, I was like, oh, some kid just coughed on me, like GG. And then like 4 days later, it's like it all hit me. So.
Dude, I saw that message too, and I was like, oh gosh, Joel is being a germaphobe or something like that. And here we are with the voice. Well, all right, Joel, hang in there, man. If you want to say something, you can say something, or feel free to like just message me on Discord or something like that if you want me to say something instead and spare the listeners' ears. But yeah, we'll figure it out.
My throat as well.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's true.
Yeah,
that as well. But we'll figure it out one way or another. Emile, man, so I've had the pleasure of meeting you a couple times, but never in person, just visual or over the chat. And and I'm actually more familiar with Caido through Ian.
Yeah.
Because I've worked with him at the live hacking events before.
Yeah.
So why don't you give me a little bit of an intro to you and how you ended up in this crazy world of writing an HTTP proxy for a very, specific set of customers.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy adventure. So basically, Jan is my friend from high school. We went kind of our separate ways after high school. He went to a different university than me. So I did a bunch of during university, and after that I did a bunch more on the development side. So infrastructure work for AWS, mainly a bit of GCP. I did development work also. And then I was in between contracts like 2.5 years ago. And then he just asked me basically, hey, I'm working on this cool new projects. Do you wanna participate on it? Like, and I always wanted to like start a company personally. Like I was doing consulting, but starting a business is different from just the service work. So I jumped on the idea, and here we are. Two years
okay, so
later.
Ian just says, hey man, you up? And says, hey, you want to start a company? And it just happened like that, huh?
Yeah. And at some point, I'm gonna share like the screenshots of what it looked like, and I'm. You would not believe it. Like,
oh my gosh, man, that's crazy.
It was the light team, so I don't know.
Oh my gosh, light theme, the eyes. No, but that's really cool, man, that you jumped on that opportunity. And I know just from talking to Ian. Ian is the other co-founder of Caido. For those of you that are not familiar with the company. Well, you will be familiar with the company by the end of this episode, so hang in there. Yeah, man, Ian has always said it's been a pleasure working with you, and I'm glad he's got a partner in this challenge because I've been talking with him a little bit, and I've seen y'all's company develop over the past couple years, and it's a lot of work, man. Yeah. There's a lot of feet, in the beginning when we were all just kind of at the live hacking events being like, man, I really don't like burp, and we had this conversation at the live hacking events a lot because you're on your laptop. Right. Yeah. And when you're at home, you've got your desktop, and the desktops are a little bit more chunky and they can handle it. But when you're at the live hacking event and you're like on the verge of finding a cool bug or something like that, and then your burp just kind of craps out on you, it's the worst. So, we were always talking about, what it would look like to build another HTTP proxy tool. But as you guys are taking it on, there are a lot of features that that we've all sort of taken for granted, right?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think like the basic we got pretty fast, but then after that, it's all the settings and all the small things that one person uses, but like not everybody else. That kind of piles up on top of it. So have you guys? Let me ask this: Have you guys been? How have you balanced
trying to get everyone able to use the product for their basic needs, just basic HTTP proxying, versus implementing some of these nice to haves that we are used to using in Burp or other HTTP proxy tools?
Yeah, I think it goes a lot with the GitHub issues. We've relied a lot on that to determine which features is really important. We also have like obviously business priorities and all of that, but we do lean a lot on that based on like upvotes and how much people talk about them in general. So it's been kind of our strategy. It's not easy because like there are some stuff that we know people want for a long time, like plugins, and we can come back to that. But they are harder also. So we have to balance also how much we can ship, and we want to do a release almost every month or something like that. So to respect that timeline, we also have to like pick and choose what we work on.
Yeah,
so.
No, absolutely. That makes sense. Yeah. And that's one of the things, we've talked about Caido plenty of times. And every time we talk about Caido on this podcast, for some reason, somebody comes under the video. And even though it's in the description, they say, and they add a comment, hey, how do you spell Caido? I can't find it. It's Caido, everyone. I'm just going to go ahead and just put that out there right now.
Yeah.
So Caido, Google it. It's an awesome tool. And one of the main things that I've really appreciated about the past couple of years of using this tool is that you guys have been working off of those GitHub issues, right? Just like you said. So we have a lot of ability to influence the development of the tool. So if you have some really great feature that you would really like, you can, if you and a bunch of other people agree that this is a really great feature, you can get that implemented. Or if a bug is happening, it gets fixed very quickly. So I've benefited firsthand from that process. So thanks for sticking to that.
We have some of our special users that we like to please more.
It warms the heart. It warms the heart. But yeah, so I guess we sort of jumped the gun because I got excited. But tell me a little bit about, for those of you that haven't heard of Caido, you should go back and listen to the other episodes of Critical Thinking where we talk about Caido all the time.
It's a great podcast.
Oh, thanks, man. But give the listeners a quick summary of what the primary goals of the software is and what Caido is in general.
So, like you said, it's a proxy. So the goal is to intercept HTTP traffic between your browser and your targets. Try to find vulnerabilities, like just give you the most tools we can to like help you find the vulnerabilities, and then replay the traffic. Do some brute forcing if you need to, and then we are starting to like integrate more and more tools as we go along. So just analyze the traffic and all of that. Or if you want to modify stuff on the fly, we have the match and replace rule. So we try to get as much tool as you're used to from Burp Suite or Zap into this new project. And one of the features that we have that is kind of unique is this client server architecture, where like you don't need to run Caido on your laptop. You can run it remotely. That's I think it's a bit of an education because people are not used to doing that.
Yeah. So tell the people about that. Tell them how you can set that up.
So Caido is a server and a client. It's completely separate. You can run them on the same machine, but it's a Rust server. So we made it run like on almost every platform you can imagine, from Raspberry Pis to your VPS in the cloud. So you run this small CLI on the server, and then you connect to it via your browser, or we also have a small desktop app that's quite a lightweight, but it's basically a web view to this server, and then you connect to that, and then after that you proxy your traffic through it. It's super easy to do, and what I like about this architecture is we're not tied to a per license model. For us, it's like you install Caido on any device you want. Like it doesn't matter how many, and you just pay once for that. So
wow. Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I love how that also just very artfully solves the problem. And you guys are solving it in multiple ways, as you mentioned, because the server is actually coded in Rust, which is a far more efficient language than Java is for these sort of processing tasks. So you've solved the overhead problem in that way, but you've also solved it with this client server architecture. And I've personally benefited from this a lot because I have a Chromebook, and I really like having this little Chromebook around. It's very light, it's really easy to use, and I have a way to run Caido on my server and then connect it up to my Chromebook and proxy the traffic from the Chromebook through the Caido server, and then interact with the Caido UI on the Chromebook itself, and it works great. And so that was dude, I love it so much. It's amazing.
Yeah, we've seen some pretty crazy stuff. Like people run it on like Android devices, like tablets and stuff like that. So we've seen that. People like, one guy was trying to set it up the other day on like, he had the iPad for the front end, and then he has his VPS. He was like camping or whatnot, and he was doing hacking on his iPad.
He's hacking from his iPad.
Yeah. So.
Jeez, man. Yeah. Before I've done that a couple of times, and the ways that I've had to do it was I'd have to connect, before Caido, I'd have to just use like TeamViewer or something like that to connect back to my main computer, and then I'm like slowly dragging the cursor around, and it's no, please. That's really cool, man. And it seems like it's been a great project so far.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: there's you guys have developed it to the point now where you have a lot of the base features. You've got the the HTTP proxy in place. You guys have WebSocket history in place. You've got the match and replace stuff.
Automate, so like intruder and all of that. Yeah.
Automate. And so what are the, you mentioned the client and server thing already, but let's give you 4 other things you want to shout out in this app that people should be aware of as far as features go that could help their day-to-day testing life.
Yeah. Well, we discussed that a bit internally also, like what we wanted to discuss with people, and I think the overall theme is we want to make people more efficient, and that goes into many small sections of the app. So just from like changing projects, like changing, I don't know if you use more projects because of it, but
dude,
like
I do,
because
I use a lot of projects.
Because it's just a drop down and you just select it and boom, it's there. You don't need to restart anything. It's in the app. And we try to also keep people more organized. We have this concept of collections, and we're going to expand it more with notes related to collections and all of that. So that's another thing. We try to it was a nightmare for just keeping your replay collections or
tell me about, so the collections, I've got Caido open here. Is that if I go here into replay and then I've got, I can add various things, and this allows me to group my various sort of logical entities of the HTTP request. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the goal. And what we found is like people were like, it's annoying. You have to like put it in a collection and whatnot. But at the end of the day, like once you go back to your stuff, it's interesting because like, it is more organized and you can find stuff faster than you used to. So that's our premise. We try to gently push our users to like be more organized, and I think we're gonna add more features like eventually with reporting, and that's the same philosophy we're gonna take in terms of like keeping you organized as much as possible. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. Any tools that will help me along the way with that, I'm very grateful for. We talk about it on the podcast all the time, but if you talk to all of the top hackers, and you ask them, hey, like, what does your organization flow or your note-taking flow look like? Well, they're all like, well, I've got this scratch pad next to my desk, and like sometimes I write down every third letter of a request or something. It's like, or like I've got like notes.txt, and then I just literally cat everything into that. And so we're by nature we're a very disorganized bunch. And so
it goes part of the creativity you need for like this kind of work, right? So it's like usually like I'm a bit like that also, it's a question of keeping you organized. Like you need tools, you need strategies for that. So I think that's kind of our philosophy in terms of
I remember very clearly the first time I found out that you could rename burp tabs, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. And I think they've implemented, I think you guys actually implemented collections first, so maybe this was a response to that in burp, but they've added groups now. And so this is definitely where the industry is moving, and I think you guys took a great step with that. And so it's definitely takes a second to get used to with the adding and that sort of thing, but that extra layer of organization will really help, I think, in the long run.
definitely. And I think as we build more stuff into it, like that's going to be more present as we add notes and things like that.
So then you can take notes specifically on individual requests or individual collections or what?
Yeah, that's one of the next goal for next year. Like we want to do the whole reporting and just note taking and everything, trying to go further than what you currently have. So
nice.
Burp is giving you a bit of pressure on the notes. Like I've seen they released some stuff, so it's gonna move up the timeline.
I think it would also really be interesting because you guys have this assistant functionality as well that utilizes ChatGPT, right?
Yeah, we already have that integrated. Yeah.
Yeah, and so if I right click on a request and I let me see if I do it from replay and I hit assistant, there's explain and there's generate CSRF POC. It would be really interesting, I think, if there was a piece of functionality which was like
take my scrappy notes and make it beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely that, like 100% that. But also, hey, write a report surrounding this HTTP request, right? And then maybe you get to give like a little like 2-sentence blob, right, on it that says, okay, this is the primary request that is vulnerable to IDOR. And then, the LLM just looks at the full request and says, okay, this is probably and maybe you could even outline like template structures for reports. And then the LLM would just build it all out. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, that's definitely in the work, in our head at least. So, and I think it's going to come like more next year where we want to expand a lot the reporting, the more also everything that is from you to like an hacker one, like doing that connection faster and everything like that. And then from them, eventually I also want to be on the other side. As a business owner, I'd like to be on the other side so they don't have like, when you submit a report, it's super easy for them to retest. And if it's with Caido, it's even faster or something like that.
Okay, so you're thinking about like creating some sort of, that would be super helpful because like maybe, dude, I think I've seen the vision
You're
now.
Seeing the vision. Yeah.
Okay, so like now I have my my setup here in Caido, and I like maybe I could generate or take a collection and say okay, there's this specific flow of requests in the collection, right? And then I export it maybe, and the person on their side just clicks a link, and they see Caido in their browser for a moment or something like that, and it walks them through the flow.
That's
of the
kind
request.
of the idea. Yeah.
Dude, okay, what the heck? I'm so hyped for that. That's gonna be amazing.
Yeah. We have a whole lot of those ideas. It's just a matter of like we're 3 people. I mentioned like I don't think you met Chris before. It's our third partner, so he's part-time on it right now. So we're only 3 people, and we do our best. We ship a lot of stuff for 3 people, but we're still at our limit.
Now, Chris, I actually haven't heard you mention Chris before. Is Chris a new partner, or has he been along from the beginning?
He's been there since the beginning. It's just that he has another job also, and he's working on...
And what kind of... So Ian, I know, is doing... well, why don't you tell me a little bit about the division of duties a little bit?
Yeah. So Ian is doing all the front end. So if you like the front end, that's entirely him. Like,
awesome.
I find that crazy that he went from like a hacker
Bless his heart, man. Bless his freaking heart.
Yeah, and we don't even have a designer, so it's kind of crazy because like
that is tricky.
Does all the design also. So I'm doing a lot of the backend, so all the Rust code I've taken over a lot. I sometimes ask the other guys to jump on it for especially like larger tasks. We have a larger task of like rewriting a bunch of like our ingestion of requests and all of that, so that's gonna take a lot of manpower. And then Chris is kind of going over the back end and front end, doing a smarter task because he has less time. So we try to balance the work. And I do a lot of the administration of the business as a general idea.
That's what I was going to ask was like, does that normally fall to, I mean, and you're doing, both you and Ian are doing this full time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so that a lot of that business stuff is falling to you as well.
Yeah. So I do a lot of just administration things, and then I'm happy also to do interviews and all that.
Man,
so
right. And thus we have you here, dude. That's a lot, man. And I think a lot of the hackers, that are in this community, I don't know what it is, but it seems like there is an entrepreneurial itch in more of us than not. So it's always cool to hear about various companies that hackers have started and that sort of thing. So thanks for sharing some insight into that. I've got a couple other things I wanted to talk to you about, within Caido.
Yeah.
But actually,
yeah.
I want to jump. I want to scrap that for a second and just
Go ahead.
have some personal beef that I need to discuss with you, dude. Where is the search bar, man? Where is the freaking search bar
for like searching everything?
Yeah,
or
for searching requests and stuff like that. Like, so I hit search, right?
Yeah.
And I'm here. And so I've had this discussion with you guys before, right?
Yeah.
You know, and for those of you that are listening audio, I'm sorry. I'll try to describe as much as I can, but also we will have my screen on YouTube, so check that out there if you're able to. So I go to search and I go to filters applied.
Yeah.
And then I'm able to, specify various filters here. But I feel like one of the core things I do in Burp Suite or any other HTTP proxy is I go up to the top little menu up at the top left and I click, file or whatever it is. And then I click search, right? And then it just pops down and there's like a little search bar that I can just type whatever I want into, a regex or whatever. And I can select, okay, I want to search the response bodies or the request bodies and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like that has been that sort of search bar like experience has been missing from Caido for a little while.
I agree.
And I'm wondering if that's because it's very difficult to implement or because it hasn't been a priority on the list. Talk to me about why that is.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think filters in general are kind of an older part of the design. Like it was done more than a year and a half ago now. I think we know it's due for like a makeover. We want to our objective is to make something similar to Wireshark in terms of like for power user
language.
Yeah, so like a small query language. We'll see how much we can make it powerful. But the idea is like under the hood, when you look at the API, because basically this front end uses our own API. So it's pretty powerful. It's more powerful than the UI currently exposes. So we still have room for like improving the UI, but we still want to keep a version that is like click based, just because some user, like more beginner users, they don't necessarily like want to learn the query language at first like usage. So we want to keep both, but also teach you how to use the language like at the same time. So probably when you add stuff visually, it's going to generate the string that you could have written. So that's kind of like the idea of where we're going. I don't know in terms of timeline. I know it's a big pain point. So yeah.
Shot to the heart. No. No, that's awesome, man. I can see the vision. Yeah. I can see the vision, and I think it's to me, for me personally, and I use the filter-based search system on a regular basis, and it works. It just causes a little bit of extra friction to my
it's also not fast enough. Like I'm not like, and I want people to be able to like save filters. So if it's text-based, it's super easy. You just copy and paste it somewhere.
The speed thing, the speed thing, I haven't experienced too much of an issue with. When we hit search and Burp, it's like you hit search and then you go get a coffee and then you come back and maybe it's done.
I was thinking more in terms of like how much time it takes for like you to create a filter more than
No. So, that definitely takes some time, but we can still get the result that we need to get. It does work at this point, which is helpful. I think that's my primary.
It's in like in the top-ish of our roadmap. Like I would say, like right now I'm doing the upstream proxies, so that's gonna be done for.
Oh, nice.
Ideally next release.
Dude, that'd be awesome. So let me ask a little bit about that too, because there's a lot of features people need, and there's a lot of and like you said, you're one guy, or maybe 1.5 guys sometimes. When your people come over and work on the Rust stuff. How are you feeling about the decision to go with Rust? Because I know I've talked to a couple people that have written software in Rust, and they said it's great, I love it, but it takes a long ass time to develop stuff. So how are you feeling about that?
I agree with that statement. I think yes, definitely it takes longer to build and just to reason about trying to find the right architecture where like you're taking you have to think a lot about the data ownership and how it interacts and all of that. So that's a bit more annoying. I feel that the stability you gain once it's written is worth the time if you can spend it. Like if you don't have the time initially, it's like it's annoying, but once you've written it, it's stable. Like stuff we've written like 2.5 years ago, we never had problems with.
Wow.
To this day, so it's like
that's cool.
Yeah, and when you break something, usually the compilers help a lot more than other languages I found. That doesn't mean you don't need tests. We have like a lot of tests in the backend.
Sure.
But still helps a lot on just like basic mistakes that you would make. So yeah.
So I guess the rubber meets the road with this question. Would you do it again, in Rust, or do you think that this type of project lends itself to a little bit more of a high-speed development environment that you might be able to get with Go and not get as the performance, and sacrificing a little bit of the performance trade-off?
Yeah, that's true. I'm not sure exactly. I'm not sure.
I know.
It's a hard question.
It's a hard question, man, but we don't shy away from the hard questions here. So
that's fair.
And I'm not sure is a perfectly valid answer. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on it.
No, that's true. You tend to go faster with Golang. I think for a long time I was like, oh man, we should have done that in Golang.
Yeah.
But the more I like the language way better than Golang. It's in my opinion, it's a way better design language. The only thing is like the async part that we use. Like if you've used a bit of Rust, you've seen a bit like async Rust is not as nice to use with. It's honestly some of the stuff I've written and or read from libraries. This is like the most difficult stuff I've seen in programming languages, like honestly.
Wow.
So
jeez, man, that's intense.
Because of the async part, that is different. So yeah,
that makes sense. All right, well, thanks for being honest with that. I know that it's a little bit tricky, and maybe the grass always seems greener on the other side. When
it
you're
is always a bit greener,
like, dealing with these async garbage and Rust.
But on the other side, I have like zero. Like if I need to go to a C library, I don't have any penalty. Like a lot of stuff you gain from that. So it's always a trade-off. It's everything in engineering.
I'm just gonna give a shout out to Donut as well right now, who listens to this podcast. I know that is, Donut, if I said anything negative about Rust that I shouldn't have said, I'm sorry, man. Please don't, DM me afterwards being like, you bloody blah.
Yeah. No, I think it's fair. It's fair.
Yeah, and it's definitely, I think it's so from my very uneducated perspective and an inexperienced perspective on this sort of thing, I think that's you guys played the long game with that, like in the long run, once you get all of the base features and all of your, and even most of your nice to haves out there, and you're really just working on like listening to the user voice and product improvement, which is where you guys are approaching now. I think that it will really serve you well. It's just, I know that it's painful to have it take so much time to get some of the stuff out that you've wanted to get out quicker. And we've talked about this off air as well, plenty of times before. So that's awesome, man. So, all right. Now that I've solved that curiosity, let me swing back around to the topic at hand. We've talked a little bit about the client server architecture, the project organization, and stuff like that. Tell me a little bit about workflows and what kind of stuff I can do with workflows. Yeah,
so workflows is a new idea we came up with. I'd say like 5 months ago now. And then the idea of workflows is we want you to be able to do almost everything you can do in plugins right now, but without having to write code, or like with just minimal scripts. So that's kind of the idea behind it. We started with convert workflows, which are similar to CyberChef style.
Right.
That's
I
kind
like
of
that
like
design.
Yeah. So in terms of like how we thought about it, it was similar to CyberChef for sure. And then so I don't know, like people on the visual, you can see that it's a node-based system. So you drag nodes into your canvas, and then you connect them, and that creates like the equivalent of a script. You have if else right now, that where you can run a bit of JavaScript to do your if else statement.
Oh wow. Okay, so let me. Okay, so that's in branch right here.
Yeah.
And if I bring that on,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Can you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit small for my screen. Sorry. Yeah, too.
No, you're good. I'm not sure exactly, but yeah. Okay, so this right here, you can write the code to.
So you write the code, a small script, and then depending on if it returns true or false, it's gonna take a different branch.
Dude, this is extremely advanced. You know, you've got like all these little. You can, and I love. I think you guys hit the nail on the head with this. I guess knowing your audience, because one of the things I always tell to people that are writing anything that is oriented towards bug bounty hunters or hackers in general is we don't trust you guys. You know, like you know, if you're trying to write some piece of code, you know, to like collect subdomains for me, I'm gonna be like, nah, I need to write that myself because you know I'm gonna do something a little bit differently than you're gonna do it, and you know the next person's gonna do it a little bit differently than me, and that's what makes this uniqueness that in the hackers that will give you the wide you know varying results that you get from hacker to hacker, even people that have similar experience levels. So something like this, giving us the ability to customize a little bit more, writing our own code into this and having it run, you know, JavaScript and output just sort of the bare essentials that you need to control the workflow.
Exactly.
I love that.
So we also have we added the last release the shell node, so you can like call programs on your computer.
Oh, sick.
So this is like those are like for conversion. People have been abusing them a bit. We found
really?
to do other stuff.
What have people done with them?
Well, I don't know. Like just for example, you can trigger a run from another tool from some stuff that is in the app. So because so basically that's why I say it's a bit of an abuse, but it's not.
Yeah,
really,
yeah. No, for sure. Okay, so they're it's meant for just allowing you to do stuff like maybe there's like this white space in this weird area that you can't get rid of.
Or
so
like, you have to do like an authentication where it's like a base 64 with I don't know, a hash or something like that. Stuff like that you can do pretty easily with Convert, and it was meant that way. I think we want to add the next step of that is that we want to add passive workflows where it's going to react to events in the system, and then eventually active workflows where it's more of a scanner type of things where you actively attack, so like send requests and stuff like that.
What we're looking at now is convert workflows, specifically designed to help expedite your sort of testing process when you're working on something and you're like, all right, every single time I have to, you know, take this JSON blob, format or like minify it, and then base64 encode it, then URL encode it, then stick it in the request and send it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And this sort of allows you to set up that once, and then you can kind of paste it in. It'll just take it from there and produce that result.
The next step is to have a system like Agverter where you can put brackets and then say this input I always want you to convert it. So that's like the next logical step with the convert workflows, with integration into other tools. So
this is so exciting, man, because I can see the possibilities of like how my testing is going to change so much. You know, and I talk about this a good bit, and Joel as well. We've kind of talked about his setup as well, but we both have our unique setups for doing this sort of thing on the fly without relying on tooling. So I've got like a various set of key bindings that use what is this, a spanso, right? No, it's not a spanso. Oh, for me it's auto hotkey, right? So I have auto hotkey running on Windows, and I will, you know, hit a certain hotkey, and what it'll do is it'll grab what's in my clipboard and then it'll do something to it and then save the result to the clipboard, right?
That makes sense.
I can, you know, if I need to like do base64 encoding or something like that, then I'll just grab it, I'll hit the key binding for base64 encoding, and then it's base64 in my you know clipboard. And Joel's got the same thing, except he's got a bunch of he's got a Python library that he's been building out for the past like 10 years that has just literally every sort of thing is imaginable, and somehow in his genius brain he remembers the name of them every single time. I write the aliases all the time where I'm like, you know, I should write an alias for this, and then I like write it and I stick it in my bash profile or whatever,
and then when it exists,
and then I forget it exists, and then I do the exact same thing next time. So somehow he remembers it, and And so we've all the hackers have different solutions for this, but now
this is
all
something built
into Caido.
Yeah, and the shortcuts are coming soon for like executing automatically without doing a right click and everything. We know, like, from the way we work is we try to do an MVP of every new idea we have, and we put it out there as fast as possible. We try to get feedback and then improve on it. The problem is sometimes we get to another MVP and then we don't have a lot of time to continue improving on it.
No,
so that's us problem. But yeah, otherwise that's how we kind of work.
Well, just speaking as a member of the community, we all know that this is a work in progress, and you guys have so many features that are right where they need to be. And as these new features come out, we don't expect them all to be perfect. And I even personally like the amount of ability to influence how these features actually work via the Discord and that community. So for any of you listening, we'll do a whole spiel about this at the end. Go use our code or whatever. But really, if you sign up for Caido at this point and you are a part of this process as they're building out these features from the beginning, this product is going to work a lot better for you in the future when it becoming the premier HTTP proxy. So definitely go and get involved in the process now, and get acclimated to it as it's growing. Yeah.
And like you said, the best way is to also participate in the GitHub issues and everything like that. The Discord, we try to be as on as possible. I think I'm not sure how much it's going to scale. Like if we scale 10x the number of people in it, not sure it's we're going to need some help.
Yeah, dude, I don't know how you do it already, man. Like running a Discord and doing the business side and writing the Rust code, and man, that's a lot for 3 guys. And wow. That's crazy. So you guys have been putting in the work, and we can definitely see the results here. It's really cool to see. So that covered most of the, I think, topics that we wanted to cover in just highlighting some of the features. Did you have anything else you wanted to add in there?
I don't know. I think that everybody talks to me about that is a bit silly is the intercept, where you can view all the intercept. I don't know if you're set up for that.
Oh my gosh, dude. Okay, so I it's already become like just, all right, let me just, hold on. I actually have my, let me just go ahead and intercept it. And I've actually got my, here tab up, and I'll just go ahead and look at this, guys. Look at this beautiful thing that has happened here. No longer do we have to click forward in order to forward a request. We can just click on a random request down the line and click forward, and it's sent. And how beautiful is that? Like I have already this feature, every time I use Burp, it pains me, that it doesn't have this feature, And so this is an amazing thing that you've got here.
Small thing that makes a great difference.
Yeah, so man, it makes a huge difference, and it allows for the testing to be so much more. It's like, when you feel like you're pressing forward, and then you accidentally forward the thing you wanted to modify or something like that, and it's like, this is so annoying. And then especially if that has any reps to it, where you got to go back and reset something, it's the worst. And so this really solves that problem. Yeah,
and it's one of my favorite features. Also, we added the responses last.
Oh, check that out.
Yeah, so you have to enable the options on the top, but once you enable it, top left.
Top left. Oh, here we go. Options. Intercept responses.
Yeah.
Dude, check that out. So you can modify the response on the way back as well. Yeah. I've been waiting for that. That one was a big one.
I know. Yeah.
For the time being, I was just kind of using match and replace to fix it. But now it's nice that you have that now. That's amazing.
Small improvement over time, and now we're almost set up to do the WebSocket, so that's gonna be much easier to do. So.
Wow, man. Exciting stuff in the Caido world. So we discussed a lot of these awesome features. Let's talk a little bit about the roadmap. We've talked a lot about the roadmap already, coming back to the roadmap, in some dark corner of the Caido Discord, there were whispers of a command palette.
I know.
When do I get a command palette?
You have to bug Jan about that. I know it's not on my hands, That's
it's true. It's client-side stuff.
Client-side stuff, but I I'd say it's less of a priority. We have a lot of stuff in the workflows for like the end of the year. That's like kind of we kind of took a detour because like side note, we were launching soon a Teams offering for if you're like more in the enterprise side or business side. So we are launching a team offering. So we took a detour of like a month that wasn't planned to work on that because we had a client ask for it. So then we're going back to the workflows. So that's coming, but I don't know. It depends on the command palette. I don't know if Jan, like, sometimes he pulls up, like, he has a bubble and he codes that in, like, 2 days and he ships it. I'm like, okay, whatever.
All right, guys, let's make that Ian's next project, okay? Let's go to for any of you that love a good command palette, and I know you're out there, let's head over to GitHub, let's go to the issues and upvote the command
for sure,
palette
if it's
feature.
in the top of vote, we're going to get it done.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, dude, I don't know, man. There's something great about a command palette, and I haven't quite fully replicated this in Windows, but you know, I had this system a while back when I was on my laptop, and it was awesome, and I could press a key binding and a little box would pop up, and I forget the name of the technology that I used for this, but it would pop up and you could program all sorts of stuff to go in there, and it would have all your applications and stuff. And I just feel like that's what I used for everything, you know, was like I just hit that and then it just
VS Code also has that also.
Yes,
works
VS Code
well.
rocks it. So I think command palettes.
Yeah, definitely, but he's gonna hate me for that, but it's okay.
All right, sorry, Ian. You know, who mentioned it in the Discord? Who knows?
I don't know.
But yeah, definitely high on my priority list. Another thing that I know is really, well, actually, this one's a little bit controversial. Okay, so I have in my notes to ask you about the collaborator functionality. And as I was prepping for this episode, I was like, collaborator. That is an interesting tool because it doesn't really seem like something that should be integrated into an HTTP proxy. And so on one hand, I'm a little bit in favor of not having that feature around and forcing people to like set up their own VPS and then get a little bit more dynamic access to something like this. But for those people that don't have, I rarely ever use Collaborator because I'm mostly using my server for callbacks, and I've got a whole system that just dumps it right into like a Discord webhook.
Do you use Indirect SH or do you use?
No, I've got a custom thing. Way before any of this stuff came out, I had, you know, my own system, and being the old hacker curmudgeon that I am, you know, I'm, you know, it's hard to make me, you know, change my ways. So what are your thoughts on Collaborator? Is that something you guys have on your roadmap in the future, or are you planning on leaving that out?
I mean, we're going to have some version of it at some point for sure. It's just not on the like short-term roadmap at all. Because like you said, it's like people once, like if you use an hosted services, you have to trust that the hosted service is not reading your stuff, right? So it's like it's always this trust issue. We understand that. So we need to create something that is also self-hostable. And we found like Intercepts exists, so we're like, maybe we can integrate with that. So I don't know. I'm gonna talk to the project discovery guys, and we're gonna see what we can do.
that would be really cool, man. I think HTTP callback is not necessary as much. I don't think personally, because I think most people that are, well, this is very, very like a personal opinion thing, but I think, you know, most people have access to that do, you know, web testing seriously, have access to a server where they can host POCs or try to write exploits and that sort of thing, right? But what most people do not have access to is their own DNS server that has a bunch of these features, right? So if there was some sort of infrastructure in place that allowed for DNS pingbacks and that sort of thing,
That's
that would be
interesting.
really
Okay.
helpful.
DNS. I'm gonna take note of that because DNS pings. It's a pain to set up. I agree.
It is.
Versus
It is.
other types of ping.
And it's not actually that much of a pain for any of you
No,
that are like sitting out there thinking like, yeah, that's a pain. You know, you can set it up very easily with DNS Chef and some of the other stuff. You just got to go and modify your DNS configuration, and it's good to go. But it's not as it's not as easy to like hook into like a web service, you know, hook it up into like a webhook that sends you like a Slack ping or a Discord ping or something like that. So definitely check out DNS Chef if you're interested in that. But yeah, if that makes it onto the roadmap, I definitely wouldn't complain. And I also want to challenge the listeners to get that stuff set up themselves, because when you do, you'll start noticing things that are a little bit different that you may not be able to do with Collaborator, and you know, you'll be able to set up redirects, you'll be able to automate some of your workflow, and
people
I think it's better in general.
People block the Collaborator domain also, so
They
like
do.
even if we do it, the likelihood of our domain being blocked is very high, even if we give you like a subdomain for everything. So that's also another case. I'd say also, like from a business perspective, for us that's always a discussion we had, because we would like to offer like stuff to have that hosted for you and then host payloads and everything, but from a liability perspective, it's very hard to take that on.
Sure.
Especially when you're talking about sharing payloads and stuff like that. It's very legally gray.
That's a great point, you know, and like you said, hackers are in general a big fan of the decentralized approach, and sometimes that is at the cost of convenience, and that's the price we pay. But at
the same time, like when you go in the other side corporate world, they ask for that. They have this their checklist, so you kind of need to offer some basic things to get past that checklist. So.
Yeah, and I imagine for you guys, you know, just real talk here, you know, it's hard to get a product off the ground with just hackers being your clientele. You know, you need to also cater to other revenue streams, and so I could definitely see why that would be something that you guys would integrate in the future. All right, so I've got a couple more places I can go, but it looks like I'm looking at the doc that you've got like some questions for me. It looks like.
I just threw up some questions because I wanted to have your thoughts on a bunch of stuff around a lot of the things we plan to do. We talked a bit about like the community, like integration with bug bounty platforms and things like that.
Sure.
So that's kind of like we already touched a bit about that questions. But in terms of like reporting, collaborations, and everything, we are starting to think about what we want to do in that space. Like one of our goals as a business is to eliminate PDF reports. Like that's a stated goal in the company.
So I love it. Close to the heart.
So anything like how you collaborate with other people to build your reports and then how you see that in a tool like Caido.
So I guess for me, when it comes to reporting collaboration, a lot of the times when I'm collaborating with other hackers, you've kind of got this like person that has, you know, sometimes you have 50-50 contribution, but sometimes it's like 60-40 or like 70-30, right? And so one of the things that I always volunteer to do to even it out, if I'm on the 30 side, is I'll say, hey man, why don't you just let me write the report? Because it takes time and no one really feels like doing it and that sort of thing, right? And I actually very rarely see, and you know, you do see it with like very monstrously large reports where, you know, you'll actually collab and be like in a Google Doc writing it at the same time, sort of vibes. But most of the time I see us writing separately. So if you just had something like we talked about before, where you know, LLM assisted report writing, that would be an absolute game changer. And some place to store the report inside of Caido would be really cool as well. And then, you know, we can write the report directly within Caido, and we don't have to worry about like, okay, and to HackerOne and Bugcrowd and Integrity's defense, they've fixed the stuff now where like it automatically saves like every like 2 seconds. That's great, you know. But I'm traumatized from my past of where I wrote like a whole report and then I like clicked something and it deleted it all, and I'm like, no. So I always try to do that offline and then paste it into whatever platform I'm working with. So if you had something like that in Caido, I think that would be amazing.
We were thinking of like how do we make it collaborative over like if we do an end-to-end encrypted system where like you each have their own report and then we can do collaborative editing over end-to-end encryption. That's something we are considering, and then seeing like do we export in issues, like, or do we export in PDFs and all of that stuff? So it's
that's an interesting, collaboration. There's a lot of stuff that could go into collaboration there. Personally, I feel like I would be more comfortable if the report stayed local. And there, even if there wasn't, even with end-to-end encryption or whatever, having the report just stay local makes more sense to me because there's no need for that to be anywhere else. I guess if you are doing some collaboration, you could use a software like, like hackmd.io or something like that. That's a great software for writing. Also, of course, I'm sure you know this, but we live and breathe and write Markdown. Please use Markdown as the primary thing. None of those other fancy HTML editors.
Interesting.
So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And then as far as collaboration features go, I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on like actually collaborating like on the HTTP requests or like on the actual hacking part within Caido?
That's up to debate. We are planning to allow people to connect to the same instance at the same time. Like that's coming. We still have a bunch of bugs to fix for that, but I
feel like that'd be really tricky to implement, but maybe not.
It's not perfect, but it works because it's similar to like you having two tabs and then just having two different views, right? So it's not that different. There are some actions that are a bit annoying because it changes for the whole application because it's not segmented per user. It's not like a per tenant thing or whatever. So I'd say this is gonna happen. In terms of reporting, we are planning to use, I think it's gonna be able to stay local anyway, but mostly allowing people to collaborate over CRDT or things like that. It's CRDT is, if people want to learn about that.
I don't know that.
It's a conflict-free replication data type, something like that. I'm not sure exactly, but the idea is like you can be offline, both of you, on each side, and then you sync, and then it resolves the conflict automatically, a bit like Git does for code and things like that.
Wow, yeah.
But you can build a whole application on top of that system. So that's kind of what we're going for, probably for everything collaboration-wise over the network with two instances or multiple instances.
And would that be over the internet, or would that be over a local network, or what?
That would be over the internet. So that's kind of the idea, is like you can have a lot of instances and be completely separate and then still share some stuff. And but it's good.
This would be a really interesting feature, because I was thinking like, all right, how do we aid collaboration without making it too interdependent on each other, right? And one of the things that came to mind was like, man, it would be really cool if I could just right click on a replay tab and be like, copy link to that, and it like takes the replay tab, encapsulates it in like some sort of object, and then you can send it to your friend and they can open it up in their Caido instance, and now they have that same request. That would be super amazing. And I think in general, just more access to being able to very quickly share links. If you have, I guess you'd have to do like a time bound link share service or something like that.
Yeah, you can
or
do
even
that.
That's something you guys would want to host. I don't know if you want to even host that, but
we don't mind hosting it if it's encrypted. Like if I can't decrypt it, for me it's just a blob of binary data, so I don't really care. I can host it. It's no big deal.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're going with that. I don't know if like reporting, we had an idea of a timeline at some point where you could just like drop things like that, notes and things like that, and create just an versus like a markdown where like it's text based, so it's kind of annoying for us to insert custom custom objects because it's not made for that. So I'd say like something like a Notion would be easier for us to implement because you can create custom. I don't know if you've used Notion in the past.
Yeah,
but
I haven't used Notion very much. Yeah.
So it's kind of the idea of like boxes where box can be an image, can be anything. Basically, they can code.
And you can encapsulate different stuff.
Yeah, and like text is in a box, but then it's inside the box. It's markdown, let's say. But you can mix and match with other types of objects that are not easily addressable in Markdown. So,
that's interesting. Yeah, how would we want to? Because if the end result needs to be Markdown for compatibility with the reporting platforms, and that sort of thing, then it would be a little bit tricky. But I mean, to be honest, you only really have you really only have one major object you need to integrate with. Requests and responses, like you need to have requests and responses. So,
but eventually we'll have like, okay, you have multiple steps, or you have a workflow, and all
with the whole workflow, sharing the exploit workflow.
Yeah.
True. It gets tricky, man. It gets tricky.
So that's why we have to think a bit ahead, like what we plan to do. And so sometimes the decisions we make, they are not super obvious for like right now what we offer, but we kind of have to think about like 6 months or a year in advance where we're gonna be when we design a new system.
No, that's tricky, man. I would not be great at that. It's definitely a lot of work for you guys. I'm thinking as well, okay, so let's say we were going to integrate this into a report on a platform, right? We have the end result needs to be Markdown. So when we export it to Markdown or create the final output, maybe like your workflows become an image wrapped in a link, and then they click the image and it opens up a Caido workflow in their browser or something like that. But I'm not sure if the platforms even really allow you to
that's kind of
embed
on us
external images.
Yeah, that's kind of on us to negotiate something with like HackerOne and Bugcrowd and things like that. It's not impossible. So to make them change eventually, like we can define a standard for the industry that is a bit more a mix of Markdown and other stuff. So
that's
everything's possible. It's just like
but I mean, HackerOne and Bugcrowd and Integrity, they're all great, and they are our primary platforms. But we also want to be able to use this Markdown reports in lots of other areas too. So I'm thinking, if there was some way to be like, for example, I think actually you can do. I don't know. I feel like I've seen it on some of the platforms where you embed the data in a base64 encoded blob inside your report, right?
Yeah.
And it's really ugly to look at, but it works just fine if you're looking at the Markdown view. It's kind of ugly to look at, but if you look at the rendered view, it's fine. Yeah. So you could even do something like that with a link wrapped around that picture, and that would sort of create the nice branding effect and smooth report effect while still staying compatible with native.
No, definitely Markdown export is needed, no matter what we do, basically. So
100%, man. Wow, there's so many ways that this could be revolutionary, man. I'm thinking in my head right now.
But my goal, like longer term, is eventually like if we get rid of this Markdown step and we have like another format, it is interesting that companies on the other side can also import in their system. That's kind of like you cut down on the text-based system and you have a format where it's more appropriate to.
Well, I guess the other thing is, you said a part of your company mission statement is to delete, PDF reports. But I mean, you also have that sort of compatibility issue when it comes into dealing with some of these bigger companies that need to attach a report to like a Jira ticket or something.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's an ongoing problem, but the problem also on the enterprise side is they don't have a lot of good software to manage their vulnerabilities, and then that understands like real. Like for me, if it's in Jira, it's a bit weird. So it's like they should have something more specialized. I don't know if we're gonna go in that direction, but
they need to have that to give the developers. The developers.
It needs to be integrated in Jira, but they should have like something else on top of it, like that's
some other step.
Jira. Yeah,
maybe Caido.
We're thinking about it.
Enterprise vulnerability management platform.
Yeah. Yeah, that integrates. Like that's kind of our idea, but we'll see how much we can develop. But it's kind of the idea of like building this whole ecosystem where you can have like the hackers, and the hackers are happy, and then the other side of the enterprise, it's like they're all savvy because they can manage your stuff that they receive. So
absolutely, yeah man. I'm looking at the doc here. I think we covered pretty much everything. I guess I imagine Caido is the thing you want to shout out at the end of the pod.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to do also a small shout out because we made the Caido Pro free for students. So
oh, nice.
I just wanted to mention it. I try to mention it every time I have the chance. So just there's like a small procedure for you to apply for that. It's on our website. So otherwise, yeah, just look at what we're doing. Join the community if you can.
Get in the Discord, guys. Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, we try to be there as much as possible, and if you can support the project also. That's always appreciated. At the end of the day, everybody needs to eat, so that's the reality of it.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Including the CTBBPodcast hosts
yes,
here.
exactly.
So make sure you're using your discount code CTBBPodcast at checkout and getting yourself an extra 10% off the annual license. And take food from Emile's pocket and put it into my take money from Emile. Yeah, that's okay. Put it to me. No.
Yeah, we have annual and monthly. So we're right now our referral program only works for annual. So.
Okay, gotcha. Very nice. Good to know, man. Thank you so much for coming on the pod. I'm really looking forward to the future of Caido, and yeah, I'll be using it on a regular basis.
Yeah, happy to be here, and let's do something again at some point in the future.
For sure, man. We're definitely keeping an eye on you guys.
Yeah,
all right,
thanks.
That's the pod.